he watched this whole thing. He tries, like he's never been like to a store, so he like decides to try and go to a store. And it's really sad how many times he like falls. He can't like show emotion. If he shows emotion, then it lets it off. So it's crazy. Anyways, but just kind of an example of when it's off, right? When your hormones are off. Growth hormone, we already talked about that. I think we're gonna skip diabetes. We talked about that. Okay, I think we're just gonna skip 4 because we gotta get through here. Endocrine. So again, narcolepsy would be the sleeping when your nervous system and your endocrine system is off, right? Narcolepsy, an example from the Mr. Sleepy that we just watched. Okay, again, pineal gland, right? Pineal gland releases melatonin, right? Day and night cycles, adrenal. Then we have the adrenaline here. Okay, here we go. So, what happens though, right? So stress is good for you. Stress is healthy for you, right? If stress didn't happen, right, then your body wouldn't prepare yourself. When you're in these short-term stress situations, you have this increased heart rate, you know, your increased blood pressure. Everything's going through to help you. Everything is trying to help you. Your body is preparing to act in the best way, right? If you're going to compete in an event or something, if you can get yourself to feel that kind of stress, it's going to dilate your bronchioles, so your lungs. You're ready. Your body is going to be physically ready to prepare. That's your body helping you. Stress is good. But the important thing about short-term stress is the stress has got to end. When the stress ends, your body can do a little like, okay, think of the word. Yeah, refresh. Kind of like a little reset, okay? Your body can do a reset. It's essential that stress ends so your body can reset because your heart can't increase forever. Your blood pressure shouldn't increase forever, right? So, short-term stress, fabulous, right? But when we move to long-term stress, okay, when it is still going and going, when your body hasn't been able to put on that reset, right, you retain more sodium and water by your kidneys, okay? Just different ways that your body is trying to kind of stay alive, and you have to keep functioning without it being able to reset, okay? You have that constantly increased blood pressure and blood volume, which we'll talk about the risk of that and what that can do to your body, okay? You are starting to break down your proteins and fats, okay? Which is not the best. You really just want to use glucose. You really want to use carbohydrates for your energy, okay? You're going to have increased blood sugar because your body's going to try to supply it all the time. And increased blood sugar, more in your blood means higher blood volume. And of course, during stressful situations, your body suppresses the immune system. When you're extremely stressed, you don't need to fight viruses or bacteria, anything at the moment. So those guys all slow down, right? But you want them to come back, right? But if you are in, right, a long-term stress mode, that's a long time suppression of the immune system. So you can more easily get sick because, like we're going to talk about next week, we're talking about the blood and my blood cells, by the way. Okay, we'll talk about how they're suppressed, and if they're not active, right, not good. So long-term stress response, okay, really it's letting out these mineralocorticoids. The adrenal cortex keeps letting it out, right, and keeps letting it out, and it's going to bring about not as ideal situations. So while short-term stress is awesome and beneficial, it's really important that we get some kind of little reset, right, that we get sleep. Sleep is that reset, right? Or sometimes, that's the importance of, we could go on forever about mental health, right? And how short-term, long-term can truly become unhealthy for us. So we need to be aware of that. And then we have talked about these, right? Hormones that cause opposite effects. Insulin and glucagon, right? They cause the opposite. Insulin, glucose uptake. Glucagon, right? Glucose storage. Rewind. Insulin, glucose uptake, glucagon, breakdown of glucose storage back into the blood. And then we have, I taught that, but I could just say it one more time. Okay, so here, glucose levels, okay, but blood glucose falls to a set point, right? And so then we don't have enough. We don't have enough blood glucose here. So what's going to happen is our pancreas is going to secrete glucagon. Glucagon is going to flow through all the blood, and when it hits the river, whoo, we got this. When it hits the liver, the liver is going to break down the glycogen stores and release glucose into the blood. And then the blood glucose is going to rise, and we're going to get that normal, after eating 4 jelly donuts. Yeah, there you go. There's an example. Then we ate 4 jelly donuts, and then we have a ton of sugar in our blood. And then our pancreas will release insulin. Insulin is going to travel through all the blood, and the cells have receptors, and they will pull glucose into the cell once the insulin has bound to those receptors, okay? And then eventually, that lovely jelly donuts are going to be out of your blood and stored, and then we're back here, normal blood glucose. Again, blood glucose, blood sugar. So here, your thyroid, I feel like this is all just repeating everything. Yeah, just in different ways. Your thyroid, okay, your hormone, T3 and T4, metabolism, here we have here's a picture of your thyroid gland right here. Hey, what's this tissue right here? Oh, simple cuboidal. Nice job. Simple cuboidal epithelial tissue. You can see the apical surface. You can see the basement membrane in here. Yes, this is simple cuboidal. Yes. And then we have calcitonin. Calcitonin decreases blood calcium levels. What cell does calcitonin increase the activation of? If it decreases blood calcium, so it's going to store the calcium, what cell? Osteoblasts. Osteoblasts. Nice, nice. Okay? And then again, parathyroid gland increases calcium in the blood. So the opposite cell, what's that cell? Osteoclast. Parathyroid, osteoclast. Yes, PTH. Okay? And then the thymus again, large here. See this thymus compared to the lungs right here? And in adults, it's just cute and little and pointless. You have it, but you can get rid of it. Yes?
I have a quick question about that. So I noticed that it's kind of in the same area kind of where people get acid reflux. Is there any kind of connection with the thymus and that? No?
That's the esophagus and the pyloric sphincter, and we will talk about, well, it's not the pyloric sphincter, sorry, it's the bridge. We'll talk about that sphincter.
Okay.
In digestive week. Yes, we will. Boom! That's class! Hey, wow, wait, it's only 1 o'clock. Oh, Merry Christmas, it's only 1 o'clock. I think we're done.